answers in advance, so thank you. We did share that with our presenters, Mark Polking and Jessica Fahey, who are online as well. There are a lot of great questions, so hopefully we'll have time to get to that. With it being a holiday weekend and some last minute signups, we may not be able to address that. So again, be sure to enter your question if you do not see that being addressed during the presentation and during the discussion. As we get started, Jacinta, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and then share some of the feedback from the poll, or the first poll.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. I'm Jacinta Jargo. I sit in our Cedar Rapids, Iowa office. Proud Iowa girl. Grew up on a family farm and attended the University of Iowa. Go Hawks. And I've been with Transamerica for about a year. Excited that you're all able to join us and that I've become an intermediate Zoom facilitator of conference calls. So again, please just use the chat. If you have any questions, you can ask them to the overall group. If you're having connectivity issues, feel free to chat with me privately as well, and I'm happy to help however I can. As for the results, so I did close the poll. We had about 45 responses, and water is the popular drink of the day.
Staying hydrated. Wonderful. And so if everyone could go ahead and type into the chat, where are you guys calling in from? Where is everybody from? I'm located here in Denver. Jacinta said she's in Iowa. And both our speakers are also going to be from our Cedar Rapids, Iowa office. I see Connecticut, Baltimore, a lot of Iowa, Syracuse, Pittsburgh, all over. Ooh, England. Even got some international folks. Netherlands. Wonderful. Woodstock, Illinois, Marion, Iowa, Tyler, Texas. Great. Fort Collins, Colorado. What's up, Foco? So if anyone watches South Park, they make fun of how everything in Colorado they abbreviate. So I live in Rhino. There's Fort Collins called Foco. Nobo, North Boulder, a little bit of a joke. New Hampton, Iowa. Wonderful. And what schools is everyone part of? Where does everyone go to school? Right, Iowa State, Lebanon, University of Northern Iowa, University of Iowa, Syracuse, University of Rochester, Concordia. These answers are flying in. Western Colorado. Great to see great people from all over, which is great because it's about networking. So networking people, and I think Zoom, especially allowing us to reach out to people not in our state or not even at our schools. I think we have one or two other polls. Jacinta, do you want to go ahead and go forward with those?
Yeah. So our next poll is, how did you learn about the Transamerica Summer Speaker Series? We have about 88% of the callers responding so far, so I'll just give it a couple more seconds and then I'm happy to share the results.
All right.
All right, I'm going to close this poll. We have 90% in. And most of them heard through an email through Transamerica. So that's great that you guys are a part of our network already.
Wonderful. And then last question for the poll before we kick off. What's everyone studying? What's your major? Or what do you think about studying? Apologies for the poll.
And you can select multiple ones if you need to as well for this one. I also want to note that once we wrap up this poll, we will start a recording of this session. So again, feel free to use the chat to ask questions.
Yeah, ask questions, you can raise your hand. So if you're not familiar with Zoom, which I'm sure many of us are by this point in time, feel free to reach out. Okay. All right. Good. So we're seeing a lot of different areas. Wonderful. Well, our speakers both are in the finance area. So if we go ahead and get started, Jacinta, could you please start the recording?
All right, the recording has been started.
Thank you. So once again, thank you all for attending. This is our first summer speaker series. So this is our inaugural event, and we really appreciate you being here and hope that you find value in what our speakers, Mark and Jessica, have to say in regards to mentoring, networking, and of course, job seeking in this new virtual world. The Transamerica Summer Speaker Series came up as a result of the pandemic and its effect on internships, both at Transamerica, but also around the world and around the nation, and many of them being canceled due to the effect of COVID-19. Through the series, we are hoping to present and offer students an opportunity for you to stay engaged with our company, learn about different career paths, learn about networking, or even grow those networks through meeting our speakers and meeting during these sessions. While some of them going forward will be more focused on different majors, they're really going to be a way for you to learn more about different industries, learn more about different career paths. So they're not exclusive, but really just want to provide each of you guys support during this difficult time, whether or not your internship or your summer plans did change as a result of the pandemic. So my name is Shannon Farrar. I am the University Recruiting Manager at Transamerica. I've joined Transamerica actually about 4 days before the pandemic hit, so definitely being affected and feeling the effects like many of you. With me is Jacinta Jargo. She is our intermediate campus recruiter, or one of the ones on our team. So again, please reach out to her if you're seeing any technical difficulties. In the chat, of course, you can email everyone your questions, but you can also email directly to our speakers and to the team here supporting this initiative. With that being said, I'd like to introduce our keynote speakers. So Mark Polking, he joined Transamerica in 2001 and currently serves as the head of people solutions in HR. In previous Transamerica roles, Mark served as senior tax director, internal audit director, and head of InControl. His passion for development and coaching and wanting to positively impact our employees led Mark to the HR team. Mark is also heavily involved with our internship program and recruiting efforts. He mentors a number of employees and is the executive sponsor of our Women's Impact Network. Prior to joining Transamerica, Mark worked in public and private accounting, both in Chicago and Minneapolis. He received his Bachelor of Business Business Administration and Accounting from the University of Iowa and a Master's in Taxation from DePaul University. Our other speaker, Jessica Fahey, joined Transamerica in 1992 and is a member of our leadership team. As a senior tax manager, she leads Transamerica's corporate IFRS reporting tax team and leads the iLead recruiting team. Jessica attended Mount Mercy College before it became a university. So I think I saw some of you guys in the chat as well. Little background, iLead, for those who are unaware, is Transamerica's Financial and Accounting Leadership Summit, bringing together students for opportunities to network and learn about opportunities within the industry. So just another way that we are involved with our universities. With that being said, I'm going to hand it over to Mark and Jessica to start the conversation.
Thank you, Shannon. Very nice introduction. And first off, thank you to all the students and those from the colleges taking time today. As Shannon said, right after the holiday, to spend time with us, learn a little bit more about Transamerica, and then, as Shannon said, a very interactive discussion around mentoring, networking, and job seeking in this environment. As you can tell, Jessica and I both have quite a bit of experience. Of course, Jessica started before I did, when you saw the years actually on the slide. And back when it used to be a college, I actually went to the University of Iowa after it was a college and became a university. So our agenda today, Jessica is going to cover a very high-level overview of Transamerica. Shannon actually covered our professional backgrounds and roles. So we'll just touch a little bit on what we each actually do right now in our current roles. And then we actually prepared a couple slides on mentoring and networking, but we'd really just love for this to be interactive and be adaptive. So feel free at any point, take yourself off mute, ask a question, or put something actually in the chat that Jacinta is actually monitoring. Because the more interactive this will be, the better it actually be for all of us involved. So with that, I will turn it over to my co-presenter, Jessica.
All right. Thanks, Mark. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for taking some time out of your days to spend with us. We're very honored that you would spend some time of your morning with us to learn a little bit more about Transamerica and certainly about a topic that's passionate to Mark and myself. I'll apologize up front that I have 3 dogs, so if they start to bark in the background, I apologize for that. That's one of the perks from living at home or working from home now. So I'm going to share with you a little bit about Transamerica and why I think it's such a wonderful company. And clearly, I've been here for a very long time and have a lot of wonderful things I could say. But in the interest of time, I'm going to keep this very high level. So please feel free to ask questions as we go. So Transamerica has operations in the United States, Brazil, and Mexico, and is a subsidiary of Aegon, a European financial services company that's headquartered in The Hague, Netherlands. Transamerica is Aegon's master brand in the Americas and offers life and supplemental health insurance, investments, and retirement services. Transamerica's corporate headquarters is located in Baltimore, Maryland, with other major operations in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and Denver, Colorado, along with various locations throughout the country. Transamerica has over 8,000 employees, is among the top 10 largest providers of annuities, universal term life in the United States, and serves more than 13 million customers. I'll share with you a transition, and this is something I feel very passionate about and very humbled to be a part of this. Transamerica's mission is to achieve a lifetime of financial security from the beginning of their working lives through their lives toward retirement and after. To accomplish this, we're very, very proud of our Wealth Plus Health brand, which helps customers improve their overall well-being by effectively managing both their wealth and their health. Connecting the wealth and health of our customers is our driving focus. Transamerica recognizes security and physical health are not only inherently interconnected, but they are two of the most important components living a long and meaningful life. And making wise choices and forming smart habits today will have an exponential impact on one's future. By applying between wealth and health, we want to help people recognize their goals by showing them ways to build savings, protect their them, invest in their futures, and prepare for retirement. If you all have time sometime today or later today, this week, we have numerous courses that we have on transamerica.com to help you understand why wealth and health and how wealth and health are connected. And individuals, you can access research, education, and guidance as to how health and health are connected at various intersections in your life. Savings and fitness, budget and nutrition, protection and preventiveness, and debt and stress. Mission is really, really important to our society and the good that we bring to people's futures. And this is one of the things that makes me so proud to be an employee of Transamerica for as long as I have been. So that's just a little some of the things about Transamerica. Mark, did you want to take it back over from here or jump to the next topic?
Well, you nailed that, Jessica, so I have nothing to add in. Why don't you just cover really high level, what do you actually do in the tax department?
Sure. Happy to do that. So I've been with Transamerica for 28 years. Unlike Mark, I was 10 years old when I started. I was a prodigy, so I'm pretty young still. I've been with the company for 28 years. I spent the first year and a half actually in our operations with the annuity product line, but today I've spent the rest of my career in tax, and I lead our tax IFRS reporting unit that basically is calculating all the taxes for the Americas and reporting them over to our Dutch parent so that they can report those results externally to our shareholders. I also am very, very involved with state taxes for the Americas and have spent a lot of my career in state income and premium taxes and am heavily involved in our trade group, the ACLI, and serve on many of their councils and committees. And actually, we run the committees on state taxes for the insurance industry. And I'm very, very heavily involved in recruiting. I've done that many, many years over my career here. And as Shannon indicated, I lead the I-Lead committee. I could go on and on, Mark. I like to talk about myself, but I got to give you time.
Yes, this meeting is for them, not for us. I'll also just do my elevator speech real quick. So as Shannon said, I moved around in my career. I spent 11 years in Chicago, working for 3 different companies, spent a couple of years up in the Twin Cities, and then came to Transamerica right after 9/11 back in 2001. When I joined, I had the pleasure of joining Jessica on the tax team. And then I left the tax team, went over to internal audit, did a special project, and then I actually asked to come to human resources. So I'm an accountant by trade, but one benefit of working at Transamerica in such a large company are your career can take you a variety of places. I never thought when I was in your shoes that I would end up in human resources someday. But it actually is my passion is the people. And so I found that home 3 years ago. My current role is something I never thought I would do. I become the lead and sort of our subject matter expert on COVID-19. So every week I talk with a pandemic doctor who gives us advice before the CDC actually does it. He's connected with them, heavily involved with our employees' health and making sure everyone's staying safe. And then I'm actually on the steering committee for figuring out when do we bring our employees back to the office. And very glad to say the company just announced last week that none of our employees come back to the office until after Labor Day. Because 98% of our employees are working from home, just as the 4 of us are. It's working well, the technology is holding up, we're being productive. And why we miss the day-to-day interactions, as I'm sure all of you do, health and safety is more important right now than bringing it back to the office. So I'm glad the company made that decision. And I really should say until at least after Labor Day. And then even after that, we're only talking about bringing 25% back. Because we're going to take it into phases, we're going to be slow, we're going to be deliberate, and we're going to care about health and safety more than actually bringing people back. So with that, we'll jump in a little bit. Jacinta, if you want to show the slide on mentors. As Jessica said, her and I could talk the entire hour. That's not the purpose today. But we did just want to say a few words, and we'll both interact on both of these slides. I saw some of the questions that came in advance, and there's sort of a theme in some of the questions on just what is a mentor. And so I tried to answer some of that here and just some of the high-level bullet points. A mentor is really a trusted advisor. It's somebody you can go to. You can share things with them. It will not be shared with others, and they're also actually there to help you. So a lot of cases, people think, well, I need a mentor when I start out my career. And yeah, you do need a mentor when you start out your career to help give you advice, give you confidence, to challenge you in some cases. But a lot of people think, well, you don't need mentors as you get more experience. That's actually false. I've been out of college for 30 years now, and I actually currently have 4 mentors today. So I have 4 people that actually mentor me and that I keep very close relationships with. And they actually are my advisors. They support me, they challenge me, they inspire me. I know I can go to them whenever I have a question or something I'm struggling with. Sometimes they also will just call and ask me, did you do what you said you're actually going to do at the prior meeting? So mentors are very important to actually have to supplement your coworkers and to also supplement your management chain. Wherever company you end up being, or if you even come to Transamerica like Jessica, she's in the tax department. So she's going to have supervisors and a boss in the tax department, but mentors actually get beyond the day-to-day work, and they're there to help you with a long-term relationship, to help you actually get to the next level and to support and challenge you. Also, a lot of people think, well, it's a one-way relationship. That's actually also false. It's actually a two-way relationship. So while I said I get mentored by 4, I have 4 mentors of my own. I mentor anywhere from 8 to 12 individuals on an ongoing basis. I get as much out of those relationships as they get listening to me and asking me for advice, because I see what's important to them. I see what motivates them. I see what they consider important. And sometimes I actually change based on the questions my mentee is actually asking me. So it's a very good two-way relationship, and you need to find mentors that you're comfortable with. Somebody that you know, somebody that you have at least started a relationship with, somebody that fits your personality, but someone you know can be a safe space for you. So I will pause. Jessica, anything you want to add?
No, I think you covered that really well. And I think your point about needing mentors throughout your career progression is really important. And I would say that I have found to be that it's more important as you go through your career to have a few more mentors because your situations, your challenges are different. And, it's good a couple of years to listen to you and bounce ideas off of. And I'm like you, Mark. I find that not only do I get a lot out of my mentor sessions with my folks that mentor me, but I get probably oftentimes out of the people that I mentor. And I really like discussions to be really where I think about the in the driver's seat and myself being the passenger, and I'm there to help and coach and guide them. And I often will learn a lot from them, different perspectives that I hadn't really given a lot of thought to. So it really is a two-way street. I think the most important part of it is finding the people that match up to your personality and really trust to be open and vulnerable with at times.
So we'll pause for a second and allow anybody to ask questions around mentors that you would like before we jump to networking. And feel free to take yourself off mute or feel free to go ahead and type something in the chat box. And the first person actually wins a prize. Go ahead, Paige.
Yeah, what would you say is your favorite characteristic about the main mentor that you have?
The favorite characteristic of it's hard for me to feel a really good mentor. Probably in the best is she's done what is really difficult. So she used to be my boss. She now is my mentor and she's also my friend. So she actually filled out what I call a good stool. There's a mentor, friend, and my boss. One characteristic, she is not, and she challenges me a ton. So anytime, even there's times I have self-doubt or I need a confidence boost, she's like, Mark, you can do it. Remember when you did this, you can do that. And when I leave talking with her, and now we do them virtually, I just did one with her on Friday. When I leave those discussions, I am energized, I'm enthused, and I'm ready to go charge up the hill.
I'll add to that, I guess, here, if everybody can hear me. I know that there was some breaking up there, but one of the most important and favorite things about one of my mentors is that I know that I can trust this person with anything that I want to talk about. I can go to this person with any situation or challenge that I'm having. And I know that he's going to be a straight shooter with me. He's going to encourage me, give me some confidence, and he's going to really hold me to a level of accountability that I need to be held to. I can think of one particular situation where I was really struggling with having a conversation with one of my bosses. That was kind of a sensitive conversation, a really important conversation I needed to have. And it was really good to be able to go to him and have him be just really open and honest with me, and to be able to have this relationship where I knew that I could tell him anything and that I could trust that I knew I was going to get really great coaching. And above all, I knew that he was going to hold me accountable and that he was going to be checking in with me and making sure that I followed through on what I committed to him. So I think, that's one of the most important things I have gotten out of that relationship. And, above all, I always leave feeling very, very inspired and motivated.
So I see we've had a couple questions come through the chat box. One, I think it's from Theis. You had a mentor with bad influence before, and if so, when did you realize? Yeah, that actually did occur. The very first mentor I had out of college. So I started work with KPMG in Chicago. And I'm actually from Northwest Iowa, moving to Chicago. It's kind of a culture shock, but I wanted to try a big city. Love it. I loved it. It was a great place to grow up. And KPMG actually put you with a mentor. They didn't actually let you go find your own mentor after a period of time. They actually signed you the mentor day one. The very first time I had a meeting with my assigned mentor, I was like, I'm not sure he's the best to give me career advice. And I let it go on for 2 or 3 or 4 meetings. And I finally went to my boss and I said, the mentor you set me up with, I'm like, we just don't connect. And that just happens. He actually was giving me some advice to actually leave KPMG and go somewhere else. It's interesting. He gave me that advice, and 30 years later, he's still at KPMG. So he actually did his own advice. But he was a bad influence. He was not actually helping me. So I went and found a different mentor very quickly. I think it took me 3 or 4 weeks because I was new. I was a little worried, like, assigning this person, how do I change it? But I found someone else. And if you do get assigned to a bad mentor, you do need to get out of that relationship and find a good mentor.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you very much.
You bet. So, Jessica, I'm going to ask you one of these questions. How to mentor if I'm not part of the company, or in the job, or I am a job or internship seeker?
Well, there's lots of different ways that you can find a mentor. You don't necessarily have to be in a company. In fact, even if you are in a company, I think it's often a wise thing to look outside to other people as well. You can often find them. I'm sure some of you are in some accounting clubs at college, or other kind of clubs at college. Mentor with your professors. There's some online places you can go. Volunteering. I've gotten a lot of great mentorships out of just simply volunteering and finding people that I really connect with. I think one of the most important things when you're looking for a mentor is to look at people from the perspective of what are the attributes and the qualities of that person that really draw you to them. What is it that you really want to emulate and take out of that person characteristics, and try to really hone in on that. And that can come from a host of different places, but not only from your college, but volunteering is a really, really great place to meet a variety of different people. Mark, do you have anything you want to add to that?
No, the only other one I thought about, I completely agree with the volunteering aspect, and that's huge. You've all probably had some part-time job or even a full-time job as you came through high school or college. Think about either one of those prior bosses or one of your prior coworkers that you're really respected, you fit with, have those attributes Jessica talked about, and actually go out and have lunch with them, and then ask them if they'd actually want to be a mentor for you. So it doesn't start once you get a job. It can start wherever you need to.
And I think many of you probably on LinkedIn. I'm sure many of you are using that, and you've been guided in your that. And I encourage you to go look through that list of people that you have as contacts. And are there a few folks that you really resonate with you, that you really admire something about them? And don't try to reach out to them. It only starts with conversation. You don't have to jump into that conversation about, will you be my mentor? Just kind of casually just start the dialogue and see where it takes you.
So Quinn just asked one of my favorite questions. Do you think it's better for a mentor to be similar to you or for them to be different enough to challenge you? I'll give my personal thoughts there, Quinn. I think the latter. I think you need more than one mentor, and I think you need to think about the background and try to have diversity there. I did an exercise a few years ago where I was actually at a conference, and they actually asked you to list who you've networked with and who you mentored with. And it hit me that I did not have diversity in my mentors. They all were similar to me. And so you have to think the diversity of age, of race, of gender, of ethnicity, of location, of just backgrounds, and get that diversity of mentors, because they all will bring something to the table to, again, support, challenge, and inspire you.
Yeah, that's a great answer. I don't know that I have anything I could add to that.
Well, I'm going to ask you an accounting question because one's come through. Will COVID change the way accountants do work in the future? I guess I'm going to rephrase that, Jessica. How has COVID changed how accountants have done work in the last 3 months?
Exponentially. I would say that it has, but yet it hasn't, if that makes any sense. I would say, at Transamerica, my team in tax and I think across our finance organization, actually, we've been able to really pivot and transitioned into work from home environment. And we went through our very first reporting quarter, reporting out results to our parents, and it went really, really well. Because most everything that you need to do your job, you can get virtually. I think the most important thing, though, is making sure that you're really connected. You have to make a very conscious connected and reaching out to people, communicating more effectively, and also just being, having fun in your day. You still got to have fun, right? And because you can't be there in person, you got to figure out a way to encourage people to socialize and have a little bit of fun throughout the day. So we've been able to do our job really, really well. And I'm proud to say that we've not missed a beat. And in fact, at times I probably have been a little bit more efficient and effective, and and have had some fun along the way too. We've had many, many team buildings virtually. Connectivity is just really the most important thing that you can really strive for. I would say that COVID probably wasn't really the thing that's going to change an account the way they do their job in the future. I would honestly put that more toward the way technology is unfolding and developing and the speed at which that is happening, making sure that you're staying really relevant on learning those skills. To me, that's what's going to change the accounting world in the future.
Muhammad is asking a follow-up to what I said earlier. So about his question is, what matters more when looking for a mentor, their professional experience or the diversity? I would say there's not a straight black and white answer there, Muhammad. I would say it depends. It depends on the person. I think it's important to have diversity of your mentors when you look at them as a group. With respect to the individual, it's really is what, and Jessica said this earlier, what attributes are you looking to get out of having a mentorship with Joe versus Sally versus Mary? And think about that. What will they actually help you with? And it may be diversity for one. It may be professional experience for another. It may be a certain attribute. For example, I had one of my mentees come to me a month or so ago, and she's actually struggling with public speaking. It's hard to actually help someone with public speaking in a virtual world. But I connected her with one of our leads of our communication team, and I knew their personality would actually fit. They both are loving the relationship. So it really depends. What are you looking for in that particular mentor? And then look for the person that fits that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I want to spring off that a little bit, Mark, on something that we probably didn't really go into at all very much is that, I agree with you completely. I have a mentor for communication and working on do I build out that soft skill? How do I build out some coaching that I want to deal with? Coaching maybe through a difficult situation. I have a different person maybe I'm talking to. So it really does you got to kind of figure out what you're needing the support in. But the other thing I don't think that we've really talked too much about is that, having these mentors and having this relationship really gives you an opportunity to share with that person what it is your goals and dreams and aspirations are. And that person, will really keep that in mind of, gosh, Jessica really, really is passionate about recruiting. And maybe the next time that there's an opportunity that comes up, Mark knows that Jessica's really passionate about recruiting. Maybe you get plugged into something because he's had that conversation with you. I've had opportunities like that throughout the industry of people know that I'm passionate about, actions, and I've gotten plugged into different groups. So it's really important with someone that you're sharing what your goals are, not only for your career, but your personal goals. And that can open up a ton of different connections for you that you're not even aware of yet.
I think we've handled all the mentor questions. I know there was a question came in about Aegon. We'll circle back to that if we have time at the end, or we'll follow up with you after the meeting. So we'll jump a little bit, and the two topics are really connected to each other. We'll jump a little bit to networking. So networking, when I was in your shoes or in your chair, I did not realize the importance of networking. It was taught to me, and I was like, okay, but it's really about what I get done day to day. And that's what I'm getting paid for. That's what I'm getting judged on. That's my performance review. And it took me a few years to realize how important networking actually is. I do consider it one of the primary keys to success. It clearly has helped me. I mentioned when I actually did my little elevator speech in my background that I've moved around before I actually found my home here at Transamerica. Only my first job out of college was the only job I've had where I didn't know my prior boss. Every job I've had, including the roles I've had here at Transamerica, have come from network. By actually building a network, and these are not people that are mentors to you. These are people you have a relationship with and you consider part of your go-to, but you actually connect with them. You have to be intentional about it. So Jessica and I are in a network together. You have to be committed to it. Every week on my calendar, and I've kept it up even though I've gone virtual, I actually reach out to my network outside of Transamerica. So when I came to Transamerica, I was a tax person, and I got to know tax people in a lot of major companies throughout the country. Then I actually moved to internal audit. I didn't know anyone in internal audit. So I network, and they helped me build an internal audit network from their peers at their companies. Then I moved to human resources. I needed a human resource network. So I took my tax and internal audit friends at other companies, and I've now built a human resources network. So the network actually does, just like mentors, it goes throughout your career. And you can kind of, a lot of times when you hear about buying a house, it's location, location, location. For success in your career, it's network, 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 network. And you need to do it both within the company and outside the company. And similar to what I said earlier about mentoring, it's important to have a diverse network. Is very important as well. Anything you want to add on, Jessica?
So you say that you're keeping in contact with people during this COVID crisis. What does that look like, Mark?
We actually set up calls. So I will not do a call today without putting on my video. It's actually interesting because you're actually getting to know each other even a little better than you did in the office, because you're like, and people are like, Mark, what's behind you? I see bookshelves. And I'm like, oh, let me explain to you what's on my bookshelves. Or like Jessica said, you'll see animals pop up in calls. You'll see a little kid walk actually in the room, and you're actually getting to know each other better. But we're doing video calls. Just to give you guys a hint for this speaker series, there's 3 pages of names here on Teams. Anybody who's flipped on their camera comes to the very front. They're on about half of the first page. I would highly encourage you guys in the future sessions, flip on your cameras. You probably all have them on your laptops because you'll actually get more exposure and visibility that way. Only because I'm keeping on the first page, because it's important for me to see Jessica speak and vice versa. I'm sure that she wants to see me all the time. I will remember those who flipped on their cameras more so than those who haven't. So just a hint of advice.
Yeah. And I would also say, Mark, your point about being deliberate about it in networking is so very important. I know during this COVID crisis, I have intentionally went through a lot of my list on LinkedIn who I've had contacts with. And much like you, I am deliberately, and I always have before, but more deliberately now, checking in with people, seeing how they're doing, just keeping that connection, because it's not, you're going to be seeing these people in person anytime soon, right? To be able to have that connection. Putting that extra effort in is really important. I also think that in both situations, but I think more so in networking, and maybe you'll have a different opinion about this, Mark, but I think you have to get kind of uncomfortable. It's often intimidating starting a conversation with somebody that you don't know. And how do you start that? What does that look like? And I'll tell you that from my perspective, I would have a really big miss early on in my career if I hadn't gotten uncomfortable. I went to a tax conference very early in my career and knew that I was supposed to come back knowing something about something. And I really didn't understand the concept that this gentleman was talking about. And I asked him afterward if he could teach me about it. And he said, no, I don't have that right now, but let's have breakfast tomorrow morning. And did I not want to go? 23, 24, 25 years old, and I didn't want to do that. That was really uncomfortable, and I was thinking about every excuse in the book to be sick. But it was honestly the best thing I ever did here, because this gentleman is still a very important network. He's a very good friend, but he has connected me to so many opportunities in the industry that I would have never had. So I think the biggest thing you can do for yourself is get out of your own way and get comfortable being uncomfortable and start the conversation, because you never know where it leads you to.
Yeah. And one of the best ways to start your professional network after you get a position, either as an internship or full-time, we call it at Transamerica, we call it employee resource groups. Many companies will have very similar things. They may call them slightly differently, but we have employee resource groups around younger employees. We have employee resource groups around, I actually am the sponsor of one around women and making sure women are successful at Transamerica. There are a variety of employee resource groups. It's a great way to find something that's your passion. Go to the meeting, just as Jessica did, start a conversation with maybe someone you don't know, and be weird the next day or two. You'll be together, you'll have lunch, and you'll actually build a relationship and you'll start your network. We also have a program that we call Build Your Network. We call it BYN because everything becomes an acronym. And we actually encourage our interns and actually our new employees to actually go out and go ahead and schedule meetings with people that are in a different department than you and at different levels in the organization. And most of the interns actually will set up a Build Your Network with me. I actually encourage it. I present it to them, so I do kind of encourage it. And some of them are like, but you're too busy. No, you will find out almost, I can't say every, but almost every employee will make time for you. They actually want to talk about themselves. They want to talk about their career, and they actually want to help you because they remember when they were in your shoes coming out of college, a little unsure of yourself, not sure, confidence, and they will actually want to help you. The best story I will tell, a few years ago, I sent a couple of our brighter interns up to see our chief operating officer, and she called me a few hours later, and her name was Brenda, and I'm like, hey, Brenda, and she goes, Mark, did you send Mary and Joe up to see me? And I said, yeah. And I actually thought she would say, Mark, I really enjoyed this, but I just don't have time. What she actually said was, do you have more of them? And I said, well, we have 50 interns here right now. She says, I want to see all of them. And she was going to make time. She was the second highest person in Transamerica out of the 8,000 workforce we have. And she was going to make time to actually meet with them. And exactly what Jessica and I said earlier, she took as much out of those conversations away as they did. And it got her motivated, got her juiced up. And it's intriguing for us to find out what you are thinking about. Because you may go, well, I joined the tax department and Jessica asked me to do this, but it doesn't make any sense to me. I think we could be more efficient and we could use technology better. Great, go do it. So networking is vital. Most companies will help you start your network, but then you have to keep it going yourself. And you do have to branch out and build your own network.
Yeah.
And as I said earlier, I think it's also very important to have a network within the company and also another network outside the company.
Great.
In one example there, I mentioned earlier I'm heavily involved in the COVID-19. We actually have company roundtables now that came from the network. And then a few people on the network invited other people. And we actually talk every 2 weeks. What are we all thinking about? When are we going to bring our employees back? What's the building actually going to look like? What's the office setting going to look like? We are using our networks to find out what other companies are going to do because we can learn from each other. And there's nothing proprietary here. We're all in this unique situation together. Let's work out of it the same way.
Yeah.
Hey, Mark and Jessica, there's a question in chat. How do you recommend starting out networking or maybe that initial conversation to start a mentor? I know I struggle with that and just interested to hear your thoughts. Like, how do you get the ball rolling?
Go ahead, Jess.
That's a hard one, right? I think it's just, it kind of just starts back where you're finding that attribute about that person that you really are hoping to develop. And I just think, just start the conversation. I don't know that there's any one big line that you can use to start a conversation, right? It's starting a conversation, telling a little bit about yourself, and maybe, I noticed that you do this really, really well, and it's something I'm really working on developing. Can I talk to you about a couple of things with that? Or can you give me a little bit of advice? It's just opening the door, right? It's just starting the conversation. And there isn't always just that perfect thing to do it. You just got to do it. It's kind of like riding a bike. You just got to get on a ride, right? And the more you do it, the more natural it becomes. And you won't be as intimidated by it, and often hear from people and people that are committed to doing the mentoring and that are passionate about networking. They're going to know that you're as well. And I would like to think most people are going to make it comfortable for you. I know I personally have a new person coming to me to mentor. I will personally share with them a story or kind of give them a perspective about, when I was in your shoes, I had this experience. This is, what happened, how I felt because of it, and give them a little bit of an experience. And I like to think that most time mentors will do that because it helps build not only you being comfortable having a conversation and getting out of the way of nerves, but it also helps and that trust that you're looking for, right? Because they're willing to share with you a vulnerability. Everybody wants to see that you've been vulnerable, that you didn't just get to a point in your career and it just happened, right? We all had situations where we've been vulnerable and we've failed and we've tried again. And people like to hear those stories. So I think you just got to start. You just got to start the conversation. Get out of your way. Probably not the answer you're looking for, Jacinta.
No, you're good. Another question. Let's see. How do you go from maybe a casual social conversation to converting that into a more of a professional development focused?
Yeah, so from the question, I'm going to make a little assumption that you're actually starting your network or your mentor with somebody that you actually have a social relationship with, that you actually know. And hopefully that's true, guys. It's really, Jessica just nailed it in the prior answer. It's really just going ahead, being intentional, setting up that first meeting, and actually just having a conversation about what are you actually looking for? And actually showing them, I'm reaching out to you because I'm really interested in what you've previously told me. I saw you do this, that really intrigued me, and get them to actually talk and then see if there's a fit and then go, can we actually change this to professional development? I'm going to use Jacinta as an example. Jacinta and I, as she said, she started about a year ago. I'm heavily involved in recruiting. We're both part of human resources, but we have so many employees here in Cedar Rapids. We're in two completely different campuses. So day to day, we actually don't see each other. So Jacinta actually reached out to me, I think via email or phone call, and said, Mark, would you actually like to get together? Because I actually want to talk about maybe having you as my mentor. And I was like, yes, I love this stuff. So we actually got together and we first just got to know each other. So she shared who she was, what her background was, where she came from. I shared who I was. And then she was prepared. And she actually came prepared with, well, Mark, here's a few things that I actually need help with or some guidance, or I just want to bounce off of you. And it was a simple transition to go from a social conversation to a professional conversation. A big part of it was she was prepared. So you have that come to me and say, hey, I'd like to have a meeting with you. And then they come and they're like, well, I just came here to talk. And I'm like, well, what do you want to talk about? You need to be prepared when you have it.
Yeah. Yeah, and we both have had situations like that, Mark, right? Where you have a mentor-mentee relationship and it's the very first one and you come and they come and you're sitting there and nobody's saying anything, right? And so it's giving the mentor not a very good experience. We're all busy people and we're committed to taking the time to do this, but it's not going to look real good on a UST to not come what it is they're trying to accomplish, right? And yes, you're going to be nervous and it's going to be a little bit intimidating, but the worst thing you can do for yourself is to come in and just expect the mentor to do all the talking. That's just not for you.
Abby has a two-part question, so I'm going to shorten it a little bit. What's the most important things to do when networking to make a good impression? We covered a little bit of it already. And then do you have any advice for getting networking experience while still in college? So I'll add on a little bit to the first one, Abby. in addition to being prepared, have a purpose. So why are you actually going to meet with so-and-so person, either for a mentorship or for networking? So have a purpose of what you actually want to come out of the meeting. Have some questions already prepared. You don't need to pull them out and read them off a piece of paper, but have it in your head. And what are you actually looking for? Most importantly, be yourself. I said it earlier, we can tell when someone comes and sees us and they're a little bit nervous. We will get past the nervousness and make them really comfortable really quickly by telling a story about ourselves or something funny we did. Sometimes I tell stories about Jessica from working with her. But we're all just people. And keep that in mind. A lot of the times people are in the positions they are simply because they have more years on you. They just have more experience. You will be in our role someday. When you have 20, 30 years of experience, or if you started like Jessica did when she was 10 years old. And then advice for getting networking experience while still in college, start your network now. So you have classmates that you're interacting with. And it's actually even more important, I think, in a virtual world. As Jessica said, be deliberate, be intentional, check in with your classmates. And these would be classmates that you wouldn't consider quote unquote a friend. They could be. These are classmates like, hey, I had a class with you and I really liked it. We may have worked on that team project together. I'd like to keep in contact with you. Find out what are you doing in recruiting? What are you actually hearing? And then you share what this company is actually telling you. So you can actually start your network while you're still in college today.
Yeah, and I would say, you open to your advantage, right? So I know some of you probably don't have internships or things that got changed, but use this to advantage for yourself. Build out those networks, maybe try to find a new skill that you want to hone or whatever, but use this time to your advantage. Not only to what Mark said, if you're sitting in on presentations or you're listening to somebody in a speech and then inspiring, reach out to them. Look for things that you might want to go to, events that you find are appealing to you, and go and participate in those. Find people that you think have your dream job, and don't be afraid to reach out to them. So don't wait, I guess is the point, until you get that degree in your hand and you're starting off a professional career. Don't wait, start it now. I think you can find mentors any place that you look. You can be as creative with it as you want to be.
So Jessica Mohammed has asked a question I'm going to reference to you. For next, I recommend reaching out to professionals via LinkedIn. If your answer is yes, how should you initiate the conversation on social media?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you can do that. I personally like the connection, via like a Zoom or a call. But I think you can do that. I think it's appropriate to do that. I think the way you start the conversation is, I saw you at this presentation and I really liked the topic that you were talking about. This is what I took away from that. I'd really be interested in following up with you, and I have a few questions. Would you have time that fits your schedule that we could have that conversation? So I think that's appropriate, but I would then highly encourage you after that to make sure that you're not keeping that dialogue just behind a screen typing, right? That you're connecting person to person, starting that rapport. And I think that's the world that I think a lot of conversations are going to start at the social platform. But I do think that they should transition pretty quickly to a telephone call or a Zoom in-person call. I don't know, Mark, do you feel differently about that?
Yeah, I agree with you. So I'm not a big LinkedIn fan. I get so many LinkedIn requests from people I actually don't know. And unfortunately, I do kind of put them to the side and I focus on those that I get or connections I get from somebody I met before. Shannon and I were talking a few minutes before this meeting, and I told her at the end of this, which we're getting close to, I said, feel free to share Jessica's and my email address with everybody on this call. So if you reach out to me afterwards and say, hey, Mark, I was on that summer speaker series with you after Memorial Day. I heard from you. I have some follow-up questions for you. I am much more likely to, if you do send me such a message, I will come back to you. If alternatively, I just get a LinkedIn request from you and I don't know who you are and you just send me a LinkedIn request, I'll be like, Abby, I don't know you. And I know 10 other people. So I'm going to focus on the 10 people that I actually know. So do as Jessica said, it's okay using social media, but use it. Hopefully it's not the first time you're interacting with the person. it's okay to follow up after that first time you've interacted.
The connectivity is so very important to the experience you get out of the mentorship, right? The connectivity of having a conversation, not sitting behind a screen typing. I think we get too complacent in that sometimes in our world that we live in, and you're going to get much more of the experience if you're having that human to human conversation, because you're getting, the body language with it, you're getting the eye contact with it. It's just very different than sitting behind it. I think that's really important to what you're trying to accomplish.
And I'll just add on to that. I mentioned earlier that we've announced to our employees that we're not having any of them come back to the office till after at least Labor Day. And that means a lot of our employees will not come back to the office until 2021. And of course, we'll monitor this situation. That means it's likely we will not be coming to the college campuses as much as we've done in the past. And I'm a big face-to-face person. A big, let's go in meetings, let's actually meet these students. There's going to be a lot of virtual recruiting, either that you'll do with us or other companies. It is very important in the virtual recruiting. As Jacinta said, this is being recorded. I'm sure her and Shannon will actually have the chat all copied. We'll know who was engaged, who was actually interactive, who was actually asking these questions. You have to be very intentional, even more so than when you're in a room together. You have to make a point to be visible and get your visibility actually out there. Because otherwise you're just going to be a box, on the screen. I think we had 80 or so people today. I won't remember 80 or so people, but I will remember the 10 or 12 of you that actually spoke up and asked questions. And I also will remember you if you reach out to us after the meeting. But it's going to be very important to be really committed and intentional to be visible when recruiting kicks off this fall. And anything Shannon or Jacinta said, because I kind of jumped in your territory there.
So I have a question for you, Mark. Often people are talking about you got to build your brand, right? You got to build your personal brand. Do you think building your personal brand is more important or less important or equally as important as building your network?
I think it's actually less important. I do think it's important. And one of the things I actually say to people who come to see me is when they hear your name, and I actually will say, so when they hear Abby Fitzsimmons, what do people actually think about you? And is that the experience you're providing them? So are you providing them the experience that you want people to say about you when they actually hear your name? So building your brand is important, but I honestly think having the network is actually more important. You've probably heard in classes, or you've heard from maybe even your parents to say, it's not what you know, it's who you actually know. Well, both are important, but I will say, most cases, it's actually who I know that helps me more than my background and all the experience I have, because I lean on my network very heavily to help me to move around and grow in my career. So,
yep, I agree with you. So do we?
So we're going to ask the next question to Shannon. So Shannon, do you have any recommendation for good books on job search and networking?
Unfortunately, I do not have any good books, especially considering that remote environment. But just like Jessica and Mark, do reach out to us. We do have a final slide with just the contact information and ways to stay in touch. But I think the biggest thing that I'd like to reiterate is that we do really remember you guys when we attend career fairs. I give out my card, but do you know how many people actually reach out? Maybe 5%. So attending these sessions, reaching out to Mark, reaching out to Jessica, both myself and Jacinta are on the intern info at transamerica.com email, as well as our peers on the campus recruiting team. So, reaching out, that's huge because very few people actually do that. So right away doing that, you're going to stand out from the crowd, being intentional. And then I think following up with those action items. I attended this. I'd love to stay in touch. Can you answer these questions? And really giving it a conversation rather than just a one-way, hey, I'm here, right? Give us something to follow up with on. Give us something to have and establish that relationship with. Jacinta, Do you have any recommendations on job? I see Matthew put in how to win friends and influences people. I have heard of that as well, which is great. But Jacinta, do you have anything specific?
Do I have anything specific book-wise? No, I will admit I took a couple years off of reading books after graduating, and I'm just getting into it now, switching between a personal read and a professional development read every month. But I think the big thing that I've discovered is just there's certain people you connect with, and when you find someone you connect with, really latch on, and don't be afraid to take someone out to coffee. It's a really easy conversation. I've had a lot of professors or an assistant dean, and I just wanted to talk to them like, can we get coffee? And no one says no, even if they don't like coffee. I will still go get tea with you. I think that's a really simple way, and just asking them, like, being transparent and having those one-on-one connections I found to be more beneficial in my start of my career than digging into a book. But I know there's tons out there. And I know Chuck Mersch has one, but I can't think of it. So I'll find that and send it out to the individuals on this call.
Yeah, I don't have a specific book, but I would tell you I do. Well, you can see behind me, I have a lot of books up on my shelf, and I'm a huge reader of all these kinds of items. But I really right now am pretty invested in podcasts and listening to lots of different people on podcasts, and you can find a lot of great substance out there. And I really enjoy Brene Brown. She's got a lot of great things out there, maybe not just necessarily to the job seeking, but just really a lot of great professional knowledge and experiences and advice. The other person I really enjoyed listening to is Ed Mylett, the Ed Mylett Show. And he has a ton of different folks on that can talk through a whole host of things. And he, at times, will have some really inspiring folks on there that walk through their stories and their networking. How do they overcome adversity and fear, and how do you develop a network? A whole host of things. So those are a few of my favorites that I really enjoy.
Well, we are at time and over time, Jessica and Mark, and again, everyone for attending on this call. And I want to say thank you. And thank you, Bruno, as well, the Journal, Wall Street Journal podcast, as well as a recommendation. If you guys do have additional questions, feel free to reach out to the intern info. We get that answered. We are recording this, so we will go ahead and share the recording with each of you, and as well as anyone who did register and was unable to attend. There's a QR code. I know there's questions about specific to accounting, to Mark, or accounting the chats. We're going to go over that in later this month, or I guess really next June and July. So take a look at that, because again, you're going to find more about industry specifics, as well as more general personal finance or culture questions and things. There's our emails, mark.polking at transamerica.com, jessica.fahey at transamerica.com, interninfo at transamerica.com. So how you can get in touch with us to answer any additional questions you may have. But again, reach out to us. And yes, even though they're not the biggest on LinkedIn, that's still a great way to stay in touch and just watch as people's career moves and progresses and shares information on there. Email, again, communicate and say, thank you. Want to stay in touch. How can I do this? And here it's, give us some ways to further connect with you. And then we also have your information. So we'll be following up with a quick questionnaire survey to get your feedback on this result, as well as ways that we would like to stay in touch with you in the future. So on behalf of Transamerica, I do want to say thank you everyone for attending. Mark and Jessica, if you have any final words, I will let you have the floor.
Go ahead, Jess.
I don't have a lot to say, but just thank you for your time and your attention to this and the great questions. I really appreciate the questions and the dialogue. It always helps these kinds of platforms discussion go much simpler, and hopefully you got from it some good information and some good nuggets to use.
I'll just add on, like she said it really well, as did Shannon. This situation that you find yourself in, where school ended early, it went online, you don't know if school will be on campus in the fall. Us taking 98% of our employees out of office buildings and having them go home, virtual recruiting. This is new to everybody. So when you sit there and go, I don't know how to do this, I've never done this before, they didn't teach me this before, all of us are actually going through this. So we're all in this together. This is all going to be new to us. As I mentioned, we go to campuses. We're going to be doing virtual recruiting probably. So when you feel that feeling, know that probably everyone else actually has a similar feeling as you. So you're actually not behind, but keep up with it. Keep the networking going, be visible. And it's really important when the fall starts back up at school. So thank you all for your time, your attention, and I find this fun. If Shannon wouldn't cut us off, Jessica and I could stay on the entire afternoon.
Well, thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day, and I hope to be in touch with you soon.
Thanks, Shannon. Bye-bye, everyone.